First thing we're going to do today, check the weather forecast for Friday night. Let's pull it up. Friday during the day, chance of rain showers. Friday night, rain showers. Partly cloudy skies, 60% chance of rain. Wind at 6 miles an hour with gusts up to 24 miles per hour. Get ready. It's the first round of the high school football playoffs. I am Kyle Parmley. This is the Under the Lights podcast presented by KEYSYS. Weather could be a factor on Friday night. Will games move up to Thursday? There's no way to know at the time of the recording of this podcast, but we've seen coaches move games for fear of the weather. We'll see what happens. It's going to be a crazy week, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to assume all these games are going to be on Friday. It's the first round of the playoffs, the Under the Lights coverage area. You know, we've talked about all 11 of our teams all season long, 8 of them into the playoffs. The road to the Super 7 starts on this first Friday night in November. So we've got 8 games to dive into a little bit. We're going to get started. Maybe these fireworks over this shoulder could be kind of a foreshadowing of what we'll see on Friday night here in round 1 of the playoffs. So we've got one team in 5A, several in 6A, several in 7A. So we'll kind of give you a broad brush of what they're looking at in terms of their draw, their bracket, their matchups. Let's get into it. But first, let me tell you about our friends at KEYSYS, KEYSYS.io, AI solutions tailored for your business or your personal stuff. Look, you know, we're all on different AI sites every day, it seems like, trying to figure things out, make things a little more efficient. KEYSYS can tailor up a solution just for your needs. So go check them out, KEYSYS.io. All right. We got a lot of first round matchups to go into. We'll just start at the top. Let's start with Class 5A. We've got Briarwood taking on Leeds in the first round of the 5A playoffs. This game's going to be at Lions Pride Stadium. 5-5 Briarwood hosting 6-4 Leeds. This is a rematch from earlier in the year. This Leeds team, coached by Jerry Hood, they paid a visit. They're paying a visit on Friday night. They played earlier this year, and Leeds rallied from a 2-score deficit in the second half to win 29-28. And so, you know, Briarwood kind of wants to enact some revenge on this one. Jerry Hood, you know, spent some time on Briarwood's staff several years ago before he took the Leeds job. Both of these coaching staff super familiar with each other, lots of respect for one another. The biggest difference in this game is going to be the fact that Briarwood doesn't have their star defensive lineman Garrett Witherington anymore. You know, he's out for the year due to injury, but that's been a big hole in that Lions defense. But head coach Matthew Forster, you know, talked to him a little bit about it. You know, it just takes some, you know, shuffling some things around, trying some different things to kind of try to, you know, make up for that absence. It's obviously you're not going to play as well without Garrett as you do with, but there are certainly some things you can do to kind of mask some of your deficiencies and try to keep the ball rolling downhill. So we'll see if this is anything like the 29-28 game they played earlier in the year. We will be in store for a great game on Friday night. That's the game that I'm planning on checking out here in the first round. So going to be a lot of fun. We'll see. Was looking at some playoff history for these two teams. Briarwood's back in the playoffs after missing out a year ago. If you remember, they had a long, I think, 29 years straight making it. Haven't been 2 of the last 3 years, but they're back ready to make some noise in the playoffs. And Leeds is back in the playoffs for the 6th straight year. They made it to the semifinals last year. They're a little bit different team this year, you know, trying to bring some new guys along. But should be a fun first-round matchup. That's in Class 5A. So if you're looking at it from the perspective of Briarwood, if you think, all right, you know, if we win in round 1, who would we play round 2? Russellville and Boaz are going to play on the opposite matchup of that bracket. So the winner of this game gets either Russellville or Boaz in the second round. We'll just see how it shakes out. So that's number 1. That's our 5A team in the Under the Lights area. Briarwood hosting Leeds. So now let's dive into some of these 6A games. A lot of really good 6A teams make the playoffs and should have some good first-round matchups. Let's start by talking about the Mountain Brook Spartans here at 7-3, hosting Mortimer Jordan at 4-6. This game will be out at Spartan Stadium on Friday night. Mountain Brook, they took their bye week 10 or week 11 last week to try to reset, get ready for the playoffs. You know, we've talked about it. This team has been one of the most battered and bruised throughout the year. Just so many injuries. Maybe that off week helps a little bit. Get guys healthy, kind of heal up a little bit, and giving Chris Yeager and his coaching staff an extra week to prepare for anybody usually does not bode well for the opponent. This Mortimer Jordan team, They haven't won a playoff game since 2019. They're back in the playoffs for the third straight year. And this Mountain Brook team, they're in the playoffs for the 10th straight year. They've won at least a playoff game each of the last 5 years. And if you remember those really, really good teams, they made semifinal appearances in 2020 and 2021. And then in 22, they finally broke through to the state championship game to finish as the runner-up. So we'll see. 7-3 Spartans, it's been up and down. It's been tough. It's been challenging, like we said, with all those injuries. But playoff time could be the right time for the Spartans. And, looks like they're the favorite on paper. We will see how it shakes out. All right, and when we talk about our Mountain Brook football coverage this fall, Gun Dermatology, 2 locations in Mountain Brook. They'll take care of all of your skincare needs, and they are the place to go for our Mountain Brook friends. And let's move on to the Homewood Patriots. 9-1 Patriots hosting Pell City. A team as good as Homewood and as good of a regular season as they had, you would have hoped for a little bit easier first-round draw, but they get the 7-3 Pell City team that upset Mountain Brook along the way, put together a really good regular season, and they just got the short end of the stick and when it came to a 3-way tie for second out of Region 6. So Homewood doesn't get they get no pass in the first round, that's for sure. They'll have to get ready to play and be up for the challenge because this Pell City team is coming off a big win over Southside to cap off the regular season last week. And they'll give Homewood everything that they want. But, if you look at it, it was really cool to see last week. Homewood head coach Ben Bergeson gets his 100th career win. Team celebrates him really well. It's really cool seeing. Awesome stuff to see there. So they'll try to parlay that momentum after a win over a 7A team like James Clemens, who is also in their playoffs. So that certainly was an impressive win on its own merit. And Homewood will have to get ready for the playoffs now. It's, like I said, 9-1, great regular season. They beat James Clemens. They beat Parker. Their only loss is to Mountain Brook on that, crazy 2-point play to end the game that everybody, saw on national news, which is crazy. But even in that game, Homewood was probably the better team for 90% of the game. And Mountain Brook put together that late rally and stunned them at the end. So we'll see what the Patriots can do. 14 straight years in the playoffs. Not too bad. They've been there every year that Coach Berg has been there. If you want to look at the matchups for both of these teams, should Mountain Brook come out on top, they will likely face Fort Payne, who won Region 8. So Fort Payne and Athens will play each other in the first round. The winner gets the Mountain Brook Mortimer Jordan winner. And as for Homewood, selfishly, I've been looking forward to this one almost as much as any of these other potential second-round games. Homewood could be playing Hartselle in the second round of the playoffs. Hartselle's put together a great regular season as well. So Hartselle and Buckhorn square off. The winner gets the winner of the Homewood Pell City game as well. All right, and when we talk about our Homewood football coverage, The Edge, theedgehomewood.com, outdoor food hall, live events, family-friendly place. You need to go check them out if you haven't already, theedgehomewood.com. All right, Spain Park, sitting at 8-2. Hosting a McAdory team that is 7-2, and some of our local folks saw this McAdory team last week play Briarwood, and they ran Briarwood off the field. So McAdory, really impressive regular season, 7-2. It's kind of the same thing for Spain Park as it was for Homewood. As good of a regular season, you'd hope for a little bit better first round draw, but Spain Park is going to play a McAdory team that is absolutely no slouch. We've talked so much this year about Spain Park's defense continuing to improve. They gave up 17 points last week to Gardendale, and that's their highest output since, I believe, week 5. So, but even then, that really doesn't tell the whole story. You get these games, you're playing guys, things happen. It's not as if the defense played poorly last week is what I'm trying to say against Gardendale. So this Spain Park team has continued to get better and get better and get better. That offense has posted 40-plus in 5 straight games. And this is the last run for senior quarterback Brock Bradley and this Spain Park team. And they'll look to put together a great run after getting to the 6A quarterfinals a year ago. So watch out for this team. If they can get past this McAdory team, they're probably going to have to go to Saraland in the second round. Saraland's playing Wetumpka. And Saraland is probably not too thrilled about having to play Spain Park in the second round if it ends up shaking out like that. So that will be another just tremendous potential second round matchup. But Spain Park got to take care of business here in the first round, before we get to that point. Another 6A game we need to touch on. Clay Chalkville, 10-0, top-ranked team in Class 6A. They have clearly been the superior team when it comes to 6A football this year. They're going to host Jackson Olin. This is the kind of draw that some of these other teams wanted. Clay Chalkville, the heavy favorite here. J.O.'s back in the playoffs again, which is, great for Joe Webb and them. Joe Webb's done such a good job getting that program back on its feet, giving them some consistency. And the Mustangs are in the playoffs, but this Clay Chalkville team is a totally different animal. They're in the postseason for the 14th straight year. Now, look, this Clay Chalkville team has absolutely this is one of those things. Anything short of getting to the state championship game just won't be looked upon very favorably. They win it all in 2023, and then last year kind of thought they had a team capable of getting back there again, but they slipped up in the second round, got knocked off. And that has clearly fueled them all off season, all this season. And they have parlayed that into a perfect regular season. And they look really, really strong as we head into the playoffs. All right, so that's what we got in 6A. If Clay Chalkville were to win, let's see, the Cougars would face Gadsden City or Jasper in the second round, assuming a Cougar victory in the first round. So those are the handful of teams we've got in 6A. A few 7A teams as well. If you've talked to a Class 7A football coach, most of them around here have not been thrilled with the way that the playoff bracket sets up this year. There were several years, look, Class 7A only has 32 teams, which is roughly half of the number that all the other classifications have. So naturally, the opponents that you play are going to be a little more static. Like, you're going to feel like you're playing the same teams every year if the brackets are set up the same in 7A as they are 1 through 6A. So coaches get together and make these proposals. Proposals happen in every sport every year that are, put in front of the Alabama High School Athletic Association, and a lot of them get shot down. A lot of them get kind of dismissed. That's a conversation for another day. But last year was the first year that 7A decided to rotate their first round playoffs so that it wasn't always Region 3, the Birmingham teams, going north to Huntsville to take on the Region 4 teams, and Region 1 playing Region 2. They wanted something different. It just felt like these teams, it felt like Hoover's playing Sparkman in the first round every single year, or Hewitt's playing James Clemens every single year. And so we're trying to find some sort of solution to that. Well, this is the second year of that rotation, and in the first round, Region 2 gets to play Region 3, which if you scan the Class 7A top 10, it is filled with Region 2 and Region 3 teams. So there's a lot of coaches around here that aren't thrilled about it. But if you're going to rotate the regions like that in the first round, like this is going to happen every 3 years. So with all that being said, you've seen some states like Georgia, some of the other surrounding states have started to really latch on to this idea of finding a way to rank teams, seed teams. And maybe we'll get to that point in Alabama someday, but we're not there yet. So what we inevitably have is some incredible first-round matchups between Region 2 and Region 3 teams. And some of these teams that win, like we're going to talk about Hewitt, Trussville, and Vestavia on one side of the bracket. If they were ever going to make the state championship game, this is the year. So, but the first round is going to be brutal to get through. There are no layups when it comes to these Region 2 versus 3 crossovers. So let's start with the Hoover Bucks. Hoover 6-4 has had a very up and down regular season, but they make the playoffs. They're going to travel to Central Phoenix City. Central, the defending state runner-up, they're 9-1. They've had a tremendous season so far. Their only loss is to an IMG Academy team out of Florida that also beat Hoover early in the year. So look, Central is probably the favorite. They've had a great year. They've got a great team. However, Hoover has shown that if it plays 4 quarters of really good football, they can beat anybody. Go back to the Thompson game. Obviously the play from that game that everybody remembers is James Bryant's 55-yard game-winning field goal at the Horn. It was awesome. However, what gets lost is how well Hoover played. Thompson's one of the best teams in the state, and Hoover was toe-to-toe with them all night long. They played well at the start. They responded to adversity throughout the game. They just played 4 solid quarters. The problem for Hoover is they haven't been able to play 4 straight solid quarters very often this year. But when they do, they can beat anybody. And if they do that against Central, they'll be right in this game in the fourth quarter. So remains to be seen if Hoover, spots Central a couple scores early, or like has happened a couple times this year against Hillcrest that they weren't able to recover from. It happened against Prattville. They did come back and blow Prattville away in the second half. But even if you look back 2 weeks ago against Vestavia, they kind of faded in the second half. So all that to say, if Hoover brings it for 4 quarters, they're in the ball game. If they, struggle and have one of those implosions, Central will, kind of run away with this. But I assure you, this is not who Central wants to play in the first round of the playoffs. So that will be a theme. And then, another game that we're going to look at, Vestavia Hills at 8-2, heading to Auburn, who's 8-2. This is another tremendous first round matchup. And here's the thing about this game. Keith Etheridge has this Auburn program at such a high level. They're competitive every single year. There's a chance they feel like they can get to the state championship game every single year. Well, week 2 of this year, Auburn came up to Vestavia Hills, and Vestavia Hills, blowout, rout, whatever word you want to describe it as, that's what it was. Vestavia was up huge right off the bat. The score could have been more at the half. The final score was 42-14, but I think anybody that watched that game could tell you it was worse than that. And honestly, that's going to be the toughest thing that head coach Robert Evans has to grapple with his team in preparation for this week, because human nature, Vestavia Hills has already destroyed this Auburn team. And so you would think we're going to go down to Auburn and we're going to take care of business. We're going to win. Well, this Auburn team now is not the same team that it was in week 2. And Evans has said as much, and that'll be his biggest challenge this week, is making his team believe that, hey, we've got to play our absolute best game if we're going to win in the first round of the playoffs. So this has the makings of an extremely highly competitive game, a classic. It has all the ingredients for a great first round game. So we'll see. If Vestavia Hills can replicate its efforts, that would be extremely impressive. The Rebels are back in the playoffs, 4th straight year. They've made it to the second round each of the last 3 years. They're trying to break through. It feels like they keep hitting that glass ceiling, but a lot of that has been the way the playoff bracket has lined up. So if they get past Auburn, watch out for this Vestavia team in this playoffs. All right, one final Class 7A game to go through. Hewitt-Trussville at 8-2, hosting Opelika at 7-3. Insert your Opelika coach Brian Moore spying jokes here. If you remember last year, Opelika's head coach Brian Moore was seen on the sidelines at a Hoover game preceding the Hoover Opelika matchup in the playoffs. Scouting is not forbidden, but the way he accessed the field via immediate pass, and he was seen in the background of a Hoover Sun photo, which was obviously unintentional, but it kind of was a public thing, and he was suspended for a playoff game. So all that out of the way, Opelika back in the playoffs because Brian Moore has done such a good job there the last few years. But this Hewitt-Trussville team, in their 8 wins, they've looked like one of the most impressive teams in 7A. In their 2 losses, they were back-to-back weeks against Thompson, and then they really did not play well against Prattville the following week and got upset there. Other than that, the Huskies have looked really, really good this year and look like a team. They're on the same side of that playoff bracket as Vestavia. So this is an opportunity for a team like Hewitt-Trussville to, make one of those breakthroughs. So we'll see. Hewitt-Trussville, we'll see. Zach Benedict at quarterback still working his way back. You could tell he was rusty, kind of coming back from that collarbone injury early on in the year. So we'll see what they can do. But yeah, so if you look at the right side of the Class 7A bracket, if Vestavia were to win, they get the winner of Sparkman and Daphne in the second round. If Hewitt-Trussville wins, they get the winner of Baker and Florence in the second round. All formidable teams, but are not as intimidating as the teams that they're playing in the first round. So This will be a topic that'll carry on over the next few weeks, assuming some of these local teams win. But like I said, weather in the forecast for Friday. We'll see how it shakes out. Obviously, Alabama's a big state. It's not going to rain everywhere. If it does rain, we'll see if any games get moved up to Thursday. So what you want to do is stay tuned to the socials. I'm on X at Kyle Parmley, Under the Lights at Underlights365 on X. Link to all things Under the Lights are in the description of this video. Under the Lights podcast presented by KEYSYS. It's going to be a great time in the first round of the playoffs. I want to also tell you about our friends at Southlake Orthopedics. They've been such a great partner for our coverage of Hoover football all season long. Less pain, more living. Southlake going to travel down with the Bucks to Central and see if they can pull off an upset win in the first round of the playoffs. So that's all we got, guys. The playoffs are here. The field, all the teams that are usually playing, that's been cut in half. And we'll cut in half again and cut in half again until we get to the Super 7 right at the start of December. So November's a fun month. Some people in college football call it the longest month because you feel so close to the end, but there's still so many big games to play. In 7A, you got to win 3 games to get to the state championship. In 1 through 6A, you got to win 4 more games to get to the state championship game. So a lot of football still left to be played. We'll be keeping up with our Under the Lights teams as far as they go this fall. So with that being said, thanks for watching today. Get ready for a great weekend in the first round of the playoffs, and we'll catch you next time.